Project Management for the Masses podcast, episode 20. Go out on your own with Farnoosh Brock.
Project managers, have you ever felt like you should get that promotion or a better job? Start a business, write that book. Have you ever felt you were made for more but didn't know where to start?
Welcome to the PM for the Masses podcast with your host, Cesar Abeid.
Learn from the experts, think outside the box, have a voice, network, and be extraordinary.
PM for the Masses podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome once again to the Project Management for the Masses podcast. My name is Cesar Abeid, your host, and this is the podcast about project management and project managers. Thanks again for listening, and I really wish I could give each and every one of you a hug for spending time with me every week, but I understand that depending on where you come from in the world or your ethnicity, this would be very awkward. But I digress. Now, I don't know if you remember back on episode 0, I promised you 20 episodes of this show. Well, I'm glad to officially cut the ribbon on episode 20. This is episode 20, as you can tell. I can't believe how fast the time has passed. It's crazy. It feels like I just started the other day. And I hope you have been enjoying the show. And right now I can tell you that even though I promised you only 20 episodes, I am going to continue to produce the show and for at least another 20. All right, so your feedback has been really helpful. I know that the show has struck a chord with a lot of you, many of you, and I'd like to continue to do that because most of all, I know it's been helpful to a lot of you listening right now, but I am having a blast. So the passion is still there. So I'm going to continue to produce the show. So thank you so much for being on my journey. Now, before I feel I need to explain what's going on here. It's been a crazy few days in the Abeid household because baby Lucy just arrived this past Thursday night, which is our third child, and that's the reason why I'm a couple of days late with the release of this episode. Now, my wife Amy was, oh my goodness, it was a beautiful thing to watch her do this. She was an absolute champion. She delivered this child at home with a midwife using no drugs, like a pro, like a boss. She was awesome. And Lucy was born, she was at 6 pounds 12 ounces, if you care about that. And she's really happy, she's healthy, she's the proverbial bundle of joy. Truly is. And except for last night, she was really crying a lot. It was the first night that we had a little bit of a hard time. I was up at 1 a.m. and let's say that it's now like 11 a.m. and I'm still up. But as you know, as you've heard it before from other parents, it's worth it. And I'd like to thank each one of you who have sent me messages through email and the different social media channels congratulating us on the new edition. So it's great to be able to share it here with you. And another thing I'd like to bring up before we get things rolling today, because of the baby, I have been unofficially kicked out of my studio for the next few weeks, so that's why I'm sounding a bit different today. I'm actually recording this as I sip a delicious Christmassy, holiday-ish coffee beverage at a famous coffee shop here in London. So if you are able to, why don't you grab your own hot beverage of choice and let's get ready for today's show. Today I bring back the delightful Farnoosh Brock, but instead of talking about getting promoted, as we did back in episode 16, today we will talk about going out on our own and starting our own businesses as a project manager. And so if you have the desire to start consulting on the side, let's say, or start any kind of business, but let's say you feel a bit uneasy about leaving your current job, or you don't really know where to start, this interview is tailor-made for you. So, without any further ado, here's Mrs. Farnoosh Brock.
Special guest coming up next. PMforthemasses.com. PMforthemasses.com.
Good evening, Farnoosh. How are you?
Hi, Cesar. I'm well. How are you doing?
I am doing good. So I heard that you had a little bit of a car accident the last couple of weeks.
I did.
I'm so glad that you're okay.
Thank you. I am very, very grateful. Recovering I've learned a lot about life, and I'm going to be a lot more careful if I ever drive again. But my husband is not allowing that just yet. So
Yeah, I don't know that I would either. It's just like my wife and knives. She every time she handles knives, she cuts herself. So I'm like, don't give me that knife.
hilarious. Oh, that's similar to our household too. Yeah, funny. Well, good. No, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be speaking to you today, Cesar.
No, I'm glad to have you back. I had you on, I think it was, I don't know, episode 14 or 15. And the response I got was great. People loved you. And I knew then that I was gonna have you again on the show to talk about Smart Exit. And we'll talk about that today. But Farnoosh, would you mind sharing it with us a little bit of your story? You mentioned this in the other show, but for those who haven't listened to that one yet, you had a very nice job, and then you quit.
Yes, what was wrong with me? I know.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Let me explain. So yes, I mean, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version in case some of you have heard the story. But basically, I did have a very, very successful position. I was at a large technology company, and I did a lot of different things. But towards the end, the last few years, I was a project manager, and I worked on many different projects. The last one was a big one in the sales operations. So I was learning a lot. I was working with wonderful people, and I had the opportunity to travel, work from home, all of that. But Cesar, I noticed a trend in myself the last few years of my career. And this is a very ex-driven employee speaking, right? I was all about being a corporate employee. But I noticed I was not happy. And I kept ignoring it. And I kept filling the void, if you will, with distractions and with hobbies and things outside of my profession. But it came to a point where I knew it's directly related to the work I do, and it just wasn't fulfilling me. So if you're going through that, you have probably felt this whole contradiction that you have it so good. What's wrong with you? Why can't you be happy? So I struggled with that a lot. And at the same time, my other distraction, which was blogging, was actually taking off. So it was really pulling me in a completely different direction than I was headed. I was always headed, for the top of the corporate ladder. So this was very interesting. But at some point, I allowed myself to explore a different path to happiness, And so that's when I started focusing more on possibly doing something on my own, possibly leaving this path, this corporate ladder, and moving to something else. And as I was doing that, they also happened to put me on a project here at work that I didn't really want to do. And I had kind of reached the limit. So I begged off that project, and that didn't go over well with my management. So I resigned, and here we are. I've never been happier. And I just hired my husband 11 months ago out of the same company. So we have been busy running our own show. It's really, really hard, a lot of hard work, but we are loving it. And it's just a totally different way of living and being successful and creating meaningful things that help other people. So it's been a wonderful journey.
Okay. So just, for the curious out there, so what do you do now? What does your company do?
Right. So Prolific Living is my company. And I say that it is a media and publishing company. I write books. I have published a lot of electronic books on my own, but I'm also writing my second book through a traditional publisher. And my books are focused on motivation and also holistic healing through nutrition. So that's one area of my passions, where my first book was around juicing and my second book is around healthy smoothies. But that's just one side of my business. I also run a personal development blog on Prolific Living. And then I have career programs because I am really passionate about helping people that are going through those career midlife crisis, if I can call it that. And this is where you either want to do something completely different or you don't know how to be successful where you are. And I really focus my coaching program and my other programs to help those group of people. So those are some of the things I do, but I do a lot of things around this because once you start putting your own business together, the possibilities are endless. But those are some of the things I focus on right now.
Great. And we did talk about one of your products last time, which is a guide to get promoted.
Yes.
And you can find that at pmforthemasses.com/promotion, or you can listen back to episode, I was going to say 15, but you can go to pmforthemasses.com and you'll see the episode there with Farnoosh. Now, Farnoosh, there's a lot of people who are unhappy at work. How do you discern whether that unhappiness, the source of that unhappiness, is it the fact that you are meant to have your own business, or you're just in the wrong job?
Okay, we're not starting with easy questions, right? No problem. I'm so glad you asked, because you're at the very beginning, you are telling people to actually consider what is wrong, looking at the root cause, understanding what's happening, because the symptoms are not always telling the truth. So you are unhappy. You may dislike your boss. You may not like the work. But how do you know corporate is not it, or this company is not it? So I start my students with this exercise, which is starting with why. And I did not invent this. Simon Sinek, who's the author of the best-selling book Start With Why, invented this, but I think it works brilliantly. So I would ask you to ask yourself, why are you unhappy? And then you really break it down. So you want to remove the symptoms, okay? So I'll give you an example. I thought I was unhappy because I was grossly underpaid for what I did. And I was. But over the years, so I decided that is the problem without really understanding what else was making me unhappy. So over the next 3 or 4 years, I doubled my salary at my job, and it only doubled my misery. And it's shocking because I love money. I loved my income, but to see that because I was solving the wrong problem. So what I should have done is really ask myself, is it really the money? Do I like the job? Do I like the people? Do I like who I am when I go to work? It really comes down to happiness, right? I'm not making this complicated. Are you happy on an average day? Are you happy being at that job, talking to your coworkers, being a part of that company, that mission, that vision the company has, being proud of that, being there, right? This is beyond having a little spat with your boss, right? If that happiness is not there on an average day, when nothing really is going wrong, then something is wrong. So then you have to dig deeper. You have to ask yourself, is it because this company? Is it something about this company that maybe it goes against my core values? Or is it the corporate environment in general versus not having a boss, doing your own thing? This is when you're craving freedom and craving this creativity, because some of us thrive in that corporate environment, in that organization. And I used to be like that. But some of us really need the freedom to just do our own thing. And with it comes that risk and that sense of uncertainty. So I would say asking questions, right? To answer your question, ask yourself a lot of questions and begin observing yourself in different situations at work. If you're just unhappy when you're under pressure, you're meeting a deadline, right? Project managers, we have deadlines coming out of our ears, right? Crazy deadlines. But sometimes it's beyond that, because deadlines actually give you adrenaline and you can also get a rush from that. But if you have no sense of happiness, excitement, anticipation to go to work, being a part of the project, larger company mission, then something is wrong. And I would say, without guessing too much, you probably need a big change, either out of that company's structure altogether or out of just corporate, coming out and maybe exploring a different path. So I gave you a lot, and let's break it down because I want to give our listeners really practical, useful things they can apply to their situations.
Okay. So let's say you asked yourself the question and you realized that, you know what? I'd love to have my business. I'd love to work for myself. And a lot of project managers do that. A lot of the consultants, consulting firms, they're public speakers. professional speakers, they just go from conference to conference and they get paid to do that, and they make a living out of that. But they always started in a job somewhere. So let's say you'd like to have that lifestyle, or like to start something on your own, or completely unrelated, like what you did, which is, now you're talking about smoothies,
Right.
Sometimes I wish I could talk about swing dancing all day, but, I get paid for that, but that's another story. But so let's say they came to that conclusion that that's what they'd like to do. What is the first thing they should do if they feel that call? What is the first step?
Okay, very good. So let's say you're a project manager, and we know how project managers, you have people you manage, tasks, all that. And then you have this yearning to do something different. You see a speaker you really like, and you feel like maybe that's what you should do. I would say try it. And that means try it in a small scale. So for instance, when I was actually fascinated with speaking, and I still like and enjoy speaking, but I was fascinated, and I thought that would be my next career when I was midway, like 5 years into my corporate job. So I went to Toastmasters, and I started going down that path as something I did, which complemented my work and also gave me another area to explore. So I would say before you jump ship and leave your current job to go to this other area you think you want to do, you have to try it. If it's and then give you another example. If you have an itch that you want to have your own business, then start a small side hustle, right? This is where you basically give this a try in a very safe environment. You still have your job, but you need to know how you feel about that. So maybe start a small business. Maybe you do pottery on the side. So just start an Etsy shop, right? Where creative artists go and sell and buy their stuff, and see how that feels, because you're still going to have headaches and challenges, and there's a learning curve. But if the excitement and the passion outweighs all of that, then you have hit on something. So then you continue. So the first step is identify something that you're passionate about, right? If there is such a thing. If not, start discovering, and then see how you can incorporate that on a tiny, teeny scale in your life. Does that help?
Yeah, and in a way, not that I'm unhappy with my job, but this podcast here is kind of like that for me. It's something I do on the side. It takes a few hours a week to do, and it is work, but I have fun with it, and I'm starting to see a little bit of an income come from it, and in different ways. And I say, maybe you could take this, you scale it up, but again, it comes to a point, I guess, that. Let's say I think there's a lot of fear involved, because there's something about that paycheck that feels safe, even though it's not safe at all. It feels like a safety net. So I'm sure, you've worked with a lot of people going through that. I'm sure there are obstacles. So what is the most difficult, or maybe apparently difficult obstacle for people to make the jump to, now my side business is doing well, and now I'm going to go for it?
Yeah. So the obstacle is actually, and this is good news and bad news, but the obstacle is just you, because you put the obstacle in there, and there is all this, I can't do it, which is one part of it. The other part is you don't even know what you are capable of doing because you don't understand your finances in the detail that you need to. I work with people who don't even know what comes into their household and what goes out. So whether you manage that or your life partner, I think you really want to get clear what is the current state of things for you. Because when you don't know, you feel like it's always worse than it really is. And then one other thing you can do, this is all part of a preparation. So we're talking today about exit plans, right? Your exit plan may be 6 months out or 2 years out. Your exit may be out of this job to another, or you may be, going to your own business. So one of the things you need to do sooner than later is understand your own finances. And again, this is not just so you know how much money you have and how much you need. This is to help you psychologically to feel more confident that, I gave up a 6-figure income. My husband gave up his 6-figure income. So we gave up a lot, and we thought we needed every penny of that to keep our current lifestyle. And that's not true, So we had lived below our means for years. So we had saved some, but I just think that we exaggerate how much we need. We exaggerate our needs, quote unquote needs, and then we get more attached to this paycheck. But listen, I get it. I am fiscally pretty conservative, believe it or not. And I know the attachment to the paycheck. So one thing I would urge you to do today is this. Don't worry about giving up the paycheck or anything, but ask yourself, what will you do if you get laid off or fired tomorrow? Because this fabulous employer of mine just did their 7 or 8 layoffs, and some of my smart friends got laid off this October. I couldn't believe it, right? And it can happen to you. It may not, but I think that thought instills a sense of urgency. And so even if you don't ever give it up, then you start thinking the thoughts that you need to move you in the right direction. You start thinking you need to be financially independent of that paycheck. So what are the tiny steps you can take towards that? And when you think of it in those small building blocks, it is not so overwhelming anymore, right? But if you're sitting there thinking, there is no way, like in your case, Cesar, I can make enough money podcasting to support my family, buy health insurance, and maybe take a trip once in a while. Well, if you think of it that way, it does seem impossible. But I think we worry so much and we waste time actually taking action. And taking action doesn't mean quitting your job and going to your business. You can take a lot of actions to prepare you step by step by step. And, in my case, just to share with you, I really was proud. This is the emotional side of that income. It was my success. It was a way I said, look, I'm successful because I make this much money. And to give that up for me was also this psychological, emotional thing. And I had to go through all of that and redefine my success. So this is beyond the physical needs and, paying bills. That was really important to me. And now I define my success very differently. And funny enough, that actually contributes to your business rather than take away from it.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with that. We went through something similar when we kind of here at home, we kind of decided that Amy, my wife, would stay home after kid number 2, and our income basically was cut by half, more than half because she was making more than I did. And okay. Not ashamed to say she's brilliant, but
right.
But then we had exactly the same kind of conversation, and we kind of changed the mindset as well. It's just lifestyle, and what's important. Is it important to have, let's say, a $200 cable internet bill, or can we make do with a $30 bill for everything?
Exactly.
And what's really important? Am I willing to sacrifice, the mother of my kids being at home with them and raising them for this luxury here, or
exactly.
not? What is and also a decision that we made about the size of our home. We live in a small house and it's by design, and I think we're gonna stay here for as long as possible.
Right.
But the kids, they're sleeping in bunk beds and they're having a blast. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's mindset. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, no, that's exactly what I'm saying. Okay. All of that is definitely helpful. And another one is also, this is what I was just having a call with my other client, and she was going over everything she was going to lose if she left her job. And she's miserable. Like, she has got to leave because this is really going to affect her health. And I said, can you just take a moment and not think about everything you're going to lose? I get it. Yes, those are going to be removed from your life, but what are you going to gain? Because this is actually very relevant to project managers, and I speak from past experience. Project management, if it's not in a company that actually knows what they're doing and they support you, it can drive you crazy, and the stress levels are so high. So if you're thinking, this is just not working out, think about what you would gain if you leave this environment where maybe it's driving you crazy, maybe things aren't working out, and it's out of your control, right? You have to abide to the rules and the policies. Then you gain peace of mind, and that translates to energy in your body and productivity. And this is the stuff that we don't think about. And I can only speak from experience because in hindsight, I can see how much more energy I have and how much I get done now as opposed to when I was at work. and I was very unhappy. So I would just spend time feeling stressed. So don't just think about everything you're giving up. You are, certainly, because you're going through a change. It's natural. But think about what you are gaining and really put it on a spreadsheet and look at it and think about it. Because your mind is, it doesn't think very linearly. But in this case, I think it's important to itemize it and really look at what you're gaining by making this big change. And if it's not enough, then maybe you shouldn't be making the change, right? It helps you make the right decision going forward.
Mm-hmm. Now, I see a relationship with an employer as a partnership, right? You're offering something, they're offering something, and you sign a contract. And as with any partnerships, one day they'll end one way or another, either because the company will go under, or you'll get fired, or you get laid off, or you will move on. So in a way, there's always going to be an exit of some sort. Is it wise for everyone? Do you recommend that everyone should have some sort of exit strategy?
Yes. Again. Yes. Okay. Yes. You have to have an exit plan before you need it. You have to. It's like insurance. You get health insurance before you need it. I had car insurance before I had my car accident, right? Which was smart. So you need that exit plan. There is always an exit. And by the way, that contract is really not binding. As you know, they can let you go anytime, and you may walk out that door anytime. So I think an exit plan, it first of all gives you peace of mind that if they should lay you off tomorrow, and it's really more common than you may think. And I'm not trying to, scare anyone here. It's just reality, right? It can end anytime. You know exactly what you're going to do, right? Because when you panic, you don't make smart decisions in that state of mind. Then you feel desperate because you don't have a plan, and you may take on another job and just get stuck in a cycle. But if today, in a nice, happy job, right? And I hope you are in a happy job. If today you start thinking, okay, if my employer decides tomorrow we should part ways, or next year, or if something changes in your life, maybe you have a big life change, a life event, then what am I going to do? And have that plan and just put it in a drawer and forget about it, but have a plan, because you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you are at the mercy of someone else. Someone else in some office makes a decision for your future. That should not affect your future, because you know exactly what's going to happen, whether your company keeps you or lets you go, or whether you decide to stay or go. So that's really a better way, I think, to even think about exit plans. So I like that you asked that question, Cesar.
Mm-hmm. And when you start something on the side as well, one thing that I found with the podcast, for example, it's a good example. When you do that, you start making connections with different people that you would not, have the opportunity to if you just stayed on your job and not doing anything on the side. And I think it prepares you as well when it comes to networking. And let's say you want to move on to another job, when you do have something on the side that opens up the opportunities to meet other people, it increases your network, and it helps you with that. Maybe the next opportunity for another job, what do you?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you agree?
Yeah, I like that. I like that you brought that up, because what tends to happen is, at least in engineering and even a little bit in project management, where I was, if people left and moved on, the next most likely thing they did, if they didn't get another job, was become a consultant in the same area of expertise. And I think that's because you just follow your comfort zone. If you know computer networking and you work for company A, then you leave, you become a consultant, and you still do computer networking on your own, right? Mm-hmm. And I think what you mentioned is how doing something different opens you to different opportunities, to different, like, look at what I'm doing. It has nothing to do with electrical engineering, computer networking, project management. I mean, I may have learned from those experiences, but I'm writing health books and running a blog and, doing so many different things because I stepped out. And then I got connected with the right people, as you said, which is so important and so valuable. And then it opened my eyes to what I didn't know, because you just don't know what you don't know. Right. And you're not stuck as the project manager. I had a PMP certification. I had a CCIE, which is like the biggest networking certification in the whole world, and all these other certifications. And so I felt like this is my life. This is what I'm supposed to do, because I even have a certification and a label, and I can't possibly break free because what a waste of time. But that's not true, So I think you have to give yourself permission, especially if you have the yearning to do something different, at least to explore. So go back to, what I mentioned earlier when Cesar asked me, what's the first step you can take? Just start to incorporate this passion, this itch you have in your life somehow, right? And see whether you even like it or not. Mm-hmm. Because again, you just don't know how many other things you are very capable of doing if only you started trying them, assuming you have the passion, right? And I like to add this one in case people are interested in moving into a business. I think the passion is important, but sometimes in the blogging world, it gets a little bit, confused with the only thing you need to do. And I think it's more than passion, because if you want to build a smart business that generates revenue, you need to solve a problem. Any problem. You just need to solve a problem. And there has to be passion around solving that problem for people, and a level of skill, talent, knowledge. And the intersection of that is where you can find your sweet spot. So be thinking about, what is that for you? What could that be? And again, allow yourself to explore, because you just don't know. I mean, you could do so many different things. We have long careers. We live a long time, and if we're careful drivers, right? And and you could switch many careers in your lifetime. So I think that at least gets you excited, right? To think about other things you could be doing. Mm-hmm. So
that's great. I had on the show, and I'm not sure if you know him, a gentleman by the name of Leslie Samuel.
Oh, I know Leslie. He's a very good friend.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Good. All right. There you go.
Very good friend. Small world.
It is a small world. And we talked about blogging and the importance of having a blog, and I'm always a proponent of project managers in particular for them to have their own online platform so they can stand on their own.
Yes.
Something similar to what I'm doing, with this podcast. And I'm not saying podcasting is for everyone, but at least a blog where you can jot down your thoughts and can point people to. Even when you're job searching, you can actually, people can Google your name and they'll find you and find, smart things that you're writing about that topic. But we talked exactly about the same thing. It's like the Venn diagram of passion, demand, and skill, right? And if you can find that sweet spot there, and that maybe that's a business right there.
Yeah, exactly. So he was smart. He added demand. I should have added that.
Yeah. Well, no, you talked about solving a problem, and
yes,
demand is
exactly.
like
Exactly.
Demand is, what is it?
Yeah, but that's your online presence, Cesar. You're absolutely right. Your online presence. I think if you're even stay-at-home mom and you hate computers, I think your online presence could help you achieve some things that are important to you, and so you don't want to write off being online and technology just because you're an artist or just because you want to be creative. Mm-hmm. I think it's just such a great time for us to have a chance to create something and to share it. That online presence, whatever capacity you decide, I think is very important.
Very good. Now, what do you know now that you wished you knew then when you decided to start a business?
Oh my gosh, I don't think we have that much time, but I will start with a few things. I think I really look back and I wish that someone had told me I'm not a good fit as an employee, but that's just not something that happens. You have to figure it out on your own. So I think I depended too much on my family, and I love my family, right? But my family, my brothers especially, and my mentors and coaches, I had some of those at my corporation, and my managers to help me, to make sure I'm on the right path. I was looking for that, and nobody would have come out and said, look, you need to get out of here, right? And because if they did, I would feel probably so crushed. But that's exactly what I needed. And I had to figure it out on my own. And I wish I just knew it's okay not to belong in that corporate environment. It's okay not to become a vice president because there is something better, much, much better waiting for me. So I would say being able to give myself permission. I wish I had known that's okay to change paths completely from what I studied in college, from my certification, that it doesn't mean you are a failure. And I wish I knew better how to define success because I was too hung up on this definition of success for years, right? I mean, it was just ingrained in me that I need to make money and have a title in corporate and then be able to tell people that I'm a vice president. And then what? I hadn't figured the rest out, and now I wake up thinking, whom can I help today? What can I do for my client, for my reader, for anybody that crosses my path? Because that's my fulfillment right now. And yes, it's important to make money in my business. I'm not naive there, but that's the kind of thing that drives me. And when I can do that, I feel successful, And by the way, I'm a president now anyway. So it's much better than vice president. I'm president and CEO and founder all in one.
There's a little side note there. And I'm the president. Yeah. I love it.
But you know what? I mean, we have to learn, and either you get a mentor or a coach or you figure it out on your own, but you have to let go of this stupid fear of failure because failure itself is going to be so good for you. You learn, you get up, you keep going. But the fear of something that may or may not happen, I think is just silly. And it really cripples us. It just keeps us from taking any action. So we stay miserable. We're not moving forward. We're not leaving. We're just staying stuck. That's the one thing I wish people would stop doing, right? Mm-hmm. If you're unhappy, do something. And that leads to something else and then something else. And pretty soon you feel in charge again. You don't feel like a victim. And then you're making changes and, you're going to get yourself out of that situation. I really believe in people's own power to help themselves. So that's really, I think, the main message I hope everything we talk about drives. So they get up and, believe there is a way out, right? Because when you feel trapped, it's a terrible feeling. I remember that. I really, really don't like that feeling. And you just need to change that and start empowering yourself. So.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful message. I'm nodding my head here. I agree 100%.
I can see it.
Yeah. So Farnoosh, how do you help people who are going through that transition or starting to think about that transition? How can you help them? How do you, as as a consultant, as a blogger,
right. Different ways, right? Okay. Yeah, different ways. I mean, it depends who it is and what kind of help. So I want to make a lot of things available for free. It helps me build credibility from, who I am and what I'm offering, but also because people that cross your path, they're not interested in immediately signing up for a service or program. So my blog, I have tons of free resources. I have a confidence program that's completely free. I have courses for, my career programs. I have a video course people can go through if they want to stay in their corporate job or if they want to leave. And I have a lot of resources. This is content, I believe, in different delivery forms. So I have audio programs, video programs, and that's where people can just read that and consume that and get in touch with me. And it's not uncommon for me to email back and forth with a reader who's having, a little issue that I could help them with. And, no problem, it's just, help them. But then I do have a coaching program and I do love working one-on-one with people that I feel very confident helping. And that's, on my website, prolificliving.com. And I also have my career programs that are very specific. So the one that you mentioned earlier, Crack the Code to Get Promoted, that's a 17-hour audio program, which took me a year to put together. And that's if you really want to move up the corporate ladder. And this is, a program that helps you do the things that you need to do and stop doing the things that don't work, more importantly. And then I have my Smart Exit Blueprint course, which is something we're going to mention later. But basically, that helps people make that exit, which is so scary, but so important whether you take the actions today or next year, you need to know what you're going to be doing. And then I have, my health programs, and I have books that I talk about juicing and smoothies, which really revolutionized my health. So from there, I started blogging about it, which led to ebooks, which led to a couple of publishing deals. And it's wonderful because it allows me to reach a larger number of people through my books and help them with the message of health. I'm big into health. So those are some different ways. And everything is on prolificliving.com. But you were going to also mention the Smart Exit course that we have been talking about, right?
Yes, and that's if you could break it down for us, how does that work, and how
Sure.
for those interested.
Okay, so we talked about some aspects of exit today, right? If you are in a job that you're unhappy, part of it is just evaluation. Are you really unhappy? Are you meant to stay there or leave? And then how do you go about building an exit plan that helps you in exactly what you need? And we also do work on figuring out the passions, since we talked about that. If you don't know what your passions are, or you have some ideas but you're not sure. So they have a lot of idea generation and brainstorming. But this is now a downloadable course, self-study course. But there is a community aspect where we have a private Facebook group. So it's a very safe place where you can interact with other people who have gone through the course and some of them have already made their exits, and some of them are still working on that. And it's a very private environment, right? Because this is something you don't want to just, blast on Facebook. So I'm thinking about leaving my job, right? It's something where you need like-minded people that support you and you put your ideas forth. So I'm really proud of the community. And that's and then there is modules. So you take the modules, you do the worksheets. There is a group coaching calls that are recorded from the past, and I do a few per year. So it's not an entirely passive course. You still have access to me and the community once you take it. And I think that's important because when you do things in isolation, you don't always complete them and get the full benefit. So there is a community aspect to this course. And again, it's helped a lot of people build an exit plan from where they are and give them the means to make that huge transition from that frustrated place into where they can survive and thrive. So
Great. Now, it sounds like a fantastic, I know it is a fantastic program, because I have people I respect who have had you on the show and test driven this, and I have no problem endorsing this here on the podcast. And so much so that the listener now can probably tell that you and I can share a lot of the same mindset and same ideas. So you and I have a little bit of an affiliate relationship. So if for the listeners, if you go to pmforthemasses.com/smartexit, okay, again, pmforthemasses.com/smartexit, you'll get directed to Farnoosh's Smart Exit program. And if you do buy into the program, then I will get a commission. All right. So just for the sake of disclosure there. But again, pmforthemasses.com/smartexit.
Wonderful.
And then Farnoosh will take you by the hand from that point on.
Yes, I'll take good care of them. Yes. I just need you to be committed when you come into the program, because that's the one thing. It's like, gotta be committed, gotta want to do this, you can do it. And then the rest happens. It's really, really a wonderful journey. So no, thank you so much for being an endorser and, talking about this topic. I think it's really important to bring it out in the open and really go through it, because sometimes we just don't talk about it and we just stay stuck, and you lose precious time that you could be doing a million things with. So don't wait, whatever you do, whether it's my course or some other resources. I think it's just important to take action if you're unhappy, because it has nothing to do with the economy or your company. It has nothing to do with anything. There are people who are, really, really happy doing work they love in the worst economy, right? It's all about you. If you want to be happy doing work you love, you can have that.
I agree. Yeah, I think there's this mentality today of blaming others or blaming the circumstances or just pointing fingers. And I think and maybe that's true sometimes. The economy is not the best right now, but I think that energy could be used elsewhere. And I was reading this the other day, that a number of companies that were started by entrepreneurs during recession times, including Disney and
Microsoft,
and
Apple,
Apple, exactly. So these people saw the recession as an opportunity to stand out because nobody else was starting companies. So and so you just need to find your way and just put on the mindset that you're in charge of where you're going, and then all of a sudden things start to happen, especially when you take action. And a great first step is to go and to pmforthemasses.com/smart-exit and get started there. And one thing I really like about that is the community aspect. I've talked about the masterminds here in the show before, and also mentoring, and how important that has been for me. I would not be here talking to you today, Farnoosh, if it wasn't for a community of like-minded individuals that I speak to on a regular basis, who keep me accountable and help me set goals for myself. For example, we are reading a book by Eric Fisher, who's a podcaster as well, on the topic of creating goals. And I created a small book reading club for me and the listeners. And we've been having group calls and with the author,
And I love Eric. No, he's awesome. Beyond the to-do list.
There is small world. I'll tell you.
It's a small world. But no, I love that you mentioned masterminds, because that's exactly what this group is, because they went through the class when I was offering it live, and they have become masterminds with each other. And it's just like, we had a live meetup in Portland, and we all met in person, and it was like old friends meeting for the first time, because they're sharing this journey of exiting their jobs. And so I'm really, really excited about the community. So you won't be alone going through the course. That's one thing I'm really, really passionate about keeping up. So, and masterminds are brilliant. If you can get into a mastermind, you will be motivated to do whatever you want to do. I agree.
Very good. Farnoosh, thank you so much. Again, it was a delight talking to you, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. And maybe we'll talk again in the future.
My pleasure. Thank you, Cesar. I had a lot of fun. So I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
You are listening to the PM for the Masses podcast.
All right, everybody. So I hope you enjoyed that. That's it for today's show. I hope you enjoyed, as I said, my conversation there with Farnoosh. And as much as I did, I always like talking to her, and I'm going to see if I can bring her back again later, talk about something else. She's just so cool. And again, I really recommend you check out her Smart Exit program at my link at pmforthemasses.com/smart-exit. And another thing I'd like to point out here is that if you plan to start something on the side, one of the first things, if not the first thing you need to do, is to establish an online presence with a website. And a few weeks back, I did something that may be helpful to you here. What I recommend you to do is to start a website with a self-hosted WordPress installation. If you've been to pmforthemasses.com, that's what I have going on there. It's a WordPress installation that's self-hosted. And if you don't know what that means, or if you don't know how to do that, as I said, I ran a webinar on how to start your PM website the right way. And I did that with Mr. Dustin Hartzler from yourwebsiteengineer.com. He's one of the top WordPress guys out there. Definitely the top WordPress guy in iTunes. So you can find a link to that at pmforthemasses.com/2020. So pmforthemasses.com/20. That is the show notes for this episode, and at the bottom you can see the episode links, and you can find the link there. Now, I'd like to ask you a question. Have you left your job to start a business? And if you have, I'd love to hear from you and maybe learn a little bit about your story. And I think a lot of our listeners would be able to benefit as well. And the way that you can do that, you can just head on over to pmforthemasses.com/2020 and leave a comment there under the show notes for this episode. Again, pmforthemasses.com/20. All right, so that is really it. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'm gonna see if I can get some sleep right now. I don't know where, but I'll see what I can do. And I will definitely talk to you next week. And until then, remember that life is a project and you are the manager. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you for listening to the PM for the Masses podcast.
Tune in next week for more great ideas on how to manage your projects better and truly stand out in your industry.
PMforthemasses.com